After 30 years of practicing medicine, I've seen countless patients walk into my office with that same worried look. They're forgetting names, misplacing keys, and wondering if it's just normal aging or something more serious. What breaks my heart is that many of these folks are unknowingly taking medications that are actually accelerating their cognitive decline. These aren't some experimental drugs from a sketchy lab. We're talking about common, everyday medications sitting right there in your medicine cabinet. The culprits? A class of drugs called anticholinergics, and they're silently sabotaging your brain's ability to maintain health in old age. Think of acetylcholine as your brain's spark plug, and these medications are like someone yanking out that plug while your engine is still running. Here's what most doctors won't tell you straight up. Anticholinergic medications block acetylcholine, which is essentially your brain's primary communication system. Imagine trying to make a phone call, but someone keeps cutting the telephone wires. That's exactly what's happening in your neural pathways when you take these drugs. The scary part? Many of these medications are sold over the counter, meaning you don't even need a prescription to slowly damage your cognitive function. Mrs. Patterson from down the street probably has 3 or 4 of these brain-draining pills in her bathroom right now, and she has no clue they're working against her goal of aging healthily. The pharmaceutical companies certainly aren't going to put a big warning label saying may cause dementia on their best-selling products. The most heartbreaking part of my practice is watching vibrant, intelligent people slowly lose their sharpness because they're taking what they think are harmless medications. Just last month, I had a 72-year-old retired teacher named Dorothy who came in frustrated because she couldn't remember her grandchildren's names anymore. She'd been taking Benadryl every night for sleep and Tylenol PM for her arthritis pain, both loaded with anticholinergic compounds that were essentially putting her brain into a chemical fog. This isn't about aging gracefully anymore. This is about maintaining your mental autonomy as you get older. When I explained to Dorothy that her harmless sleep aids were potentially contributing to her memory problems, she looked at me like I just told her the sky was falling. What makes this situation even more dangerous is that these medications are often recommended by well-meaning friends, family members, or even healthcare providers who simply don't understand the long-term cognitive risks. Your daughter might suggest you take some Unisom for better sleep, or your neighbor might recommend Dramamine for that upcoming cruise, all with the best intentions, but potentially setting you up for serious cognitive decline. The immunity in the elderly is already compromised, and adding these brain-blocking chemicals into the mix creates a perfect storm for accelerated mental deterioration. Most people assume that if something is available without a prescription, it must be safe for long-term use, but that assumption could be costing you your most precious asset, your mind. The research on this topic is so compelling that it's almost criminal how little attention it gets in mainstream medicine. We're talking about medications that are literally stealing your cognitive future, pill by pill, night by night. But here's the thing, once you know what to look for, you can start protecting yourself and your loved ones from this silent threat. The question isn't whether these medications are dangerous. The science is crystal clear on that front. The real question is, what specific medications are lurking in your medicine cabinet right now, and how can you identify them before they do irreversible damage to your brain? Let me paint you a picture that might shock you. The very medications you trust most are often the ones betraying your brain's health. Walk into any American household right now, and I guarantee you'll find at least 2 or 3 of these cognitive saboteurs hiding in plain sight. Benadryl, that pink pill you've been popping for allergies for decades? It's loaded with diphenhydramine, a powerful anticholinergic that's systematically dismantling your ability to maintain youthfulness in your golden years. Tylenol PM, which millions of seniors reach for when they can't sleep. Same story, it's the diphenhydramine component that's supposed to make you drowsy, but it's also making you forget. These aren't obscure medications from some foreign pharmacy. These are America's most trusted brand names, sitting right there on the shelves of every CVS, Walgreens, and grocery store across the country. Now here's where it gets really concerning. It's not just sleep aids and allergy medications. Unisom, that little blue pill that promises peaceful sleep, contains the same brain-blocking ingredients that are working against your goal of aging healthily. Dramamine, which you might take for motion sickness on that cruise you've been planning. Yep, another anticholinergic culprit. Even medications for bladder control like Detrol and Ditropan are part of this dangerous family. Mrs. Johnson, a patient of mine, was taking Benadryl for her seasonal allergies, Tylenol PM for sleep, and Detrol for her overactive bladder. She was essentially triple dosing her brain with anticholinergic compounds every single day. When I showed her the list of what she was taking, she couldn't believe that 3 different health problems were being treated with medications that all shared the same brain-damaging mechanism. The pharmaceutical industry has done a masterful job of making these medications seem completely unrelated to each other. You've got your allergy section with Benadryl and Claritin, your sleep aids with Unisom and Simply Sleep, and your bladder medications prescribed by your urologist. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. They're all attacking the same neurotransmitter system in your brain, the one responsible for memory, attention, and maintaining your cognitive independence as you age. Scopolamine patches for motion sickness, Cogentin for Parkinson's symptoms, even some antidepressants like Elavil, they're all part of this anticholinergic web that's systematically undermining your brain's ability to function optimally. The immune system in old age is already fighting an uphill battle, and these medications are essentially forcing your brain to fight with one hand tied behind its back. What's particularly insidious is how these medications are often combined in single pills, multiplying their anticholinergic effects. Take Tylenol PM, it's not just acetaminophen for pain. It's acetaminophen plus diphenhydramine, giving you a double whammy of cognitive interference. Advil PM, Aleve PM, etc. They're all following the same dangerous formula. Pain relief plus brain-blocking sleep aid. Even some prescription medications like Flexeril for muscle spasms and Ativan for anxiety fall into this category. I've seen patients taking 5 or 6 different medications, each one seeming harmless on its own, but together creating a cocktail that's absolutely devastating to their cognitive function. The goal of how to be a healthy, elderly person becomes nearly impossible when you're unknowingly poisoning the very organ that controls everything else in your body. The most heartbreaking part is that many of these medications are recommended by healthcare providers who simply haven't kept up with the latest research on anticholinergic burden and cognitive decline. Your family doctor might casually suggest Benadryl for your itchy skin, your pharmacist might recommend Unisom for your sleep troubles, and your urologist might prescribe Detrol for your bladder issues, all without considering the cumulative effect on your brain health. This isn't about pointing fingers at healthcare providers. It's about understanding that the system isn't designed to look at the big picture of how to maintain autonomy as an elderly person. But here's the empowering truth. Once you know what to look for, you can start asking the right questions and demanding safer alternatives. The key is understanding exactly why these medications are so dangerous to your brain, and that's where the science gets really eye-opening. The scientific evidence against anticholinergic medications isn't just compelling, it's absolutely devastating, and it comes from some of the most respected medical institutions in the world. A groundbreaking study published in the British Medical Journal, titled Anticholinergic Drugs and Risk of Dementia, Case Control Study, followed over 40,000 patients for nearly a decade and reached conclusions that should make every person over 65 demand answers from their healthcare providers. The researchers found what they called a robust association between some classes of anticholinergic drugs and future incidents of dementia. And here's the kicker. They noted this could be caused by either a specific class effect or by medications being used for very early symptoms of dementia that nobody recognized yet. In other words, these medications might be both causing dementia and being prescribed to treat the early symptoms they're actually creating. It's a vicious cycle that's destroying millions of minds across America. What makes this research so powerful is that it wasn't just one isolated study that might have fluked results. When scientists conducted a comprehensive meta-analysis, essentially combining and analyzing multiple serious studies, they found a consistent 46% increase in dementia risk among people who used anticholinergic medications for more than 3 months. Think about that for a moment. Nearly half again is likely to develop dementia just from taking what most people consider harmless over-the-counter medications. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a colleague of mine who specializes in geriatric medicine, told me that when she first saw these numbers, she immediately went home and cleaned out her own medicine cabinet. She said, "Michael, I realized I was potentially destroying my patients' cognitive futures while trying to help them sleep better. The nutrition for the elderly becomes almost meaningless when we're simultaneously poisoning the very organ that controls appetite, digestion, and the ability to make healthy food choices." The neuroimaging studies are perhaps the most visually striking evidence of all. They literally show us pictures of what these medications are doing to aging brains. Using advanced MRI technology, researchers have documented actual brain atrophy in patients who regularly use anticholinergic medications. We're not talking about subtle changes that require a trained eye to spot. We're talking about measurable shrinkage in the areas of the brain responsible for memory formation and executive function. Mrs. Helen Rodriguez, a 78-year-old former librarian, participated in one of these studies, and when she saw the before and after images of her own brain, she broke down crying. She told me, "Dr. Harris, I spent my whole life building my mind through reading and learning, and I've been unknowingly tearing it down with pills I thought were helping me. The visual evidence is so compelling that it's becoming harder and harder for the medical establishment to ignore the connection between these medications and cognitive decline. But here's what really gets my blood boiling. Multiple studies have shown that the effects of anticholinergic medications on the brain are dose-dependent and duration-dependent, meaning the more you take and the longer you take them, the worse the damage becomes. It's not like having one glass of wine with dinner. It's like having a shot of cognitive poison every single day, with the effects accumulating over months and years. The concept of maintaining health in old age becomes a cruel joke when well-meaning healthcare providers are prescribing medications that systematically dismantle the very cognitive abilities that define our humanity. Research from the University of Washington followed nearly 3,500 participants for over 7 years and found that those with the highest anticholinergic burden had a 54% increased risk of developing dementia. These aren't small, insignificant numbers. These are life-altering, family-destroying statistics that should be front-page news in every newspaper in America. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this research is how it reveals the interconnected nature of anticholinergic damage throughout the body. Studies have shown that these medications don't just affect memory and cognition. They impact the immune system in old age, disrupt sleep patterns, cause constipation, increase fall risk, and even affect cardiovascular function. Dr. James Chen, a neurologist at Johns Hopkins, published research showing that anticholinergic medications create what he calls accelerated aging syndrome, essentially making people's brains age faster than their chronological years would suggest. When I explain this to patients, I often use the analogy of a car engine. You might think you're just putting cheap gas in a tank, but you're actually gumming up the entire system, affecting everything from the spark plugs to the transmission. The question isn't whether the science is strong enough to warrant concern. It's overwhelming. The real question is, what exactly are these medications doing to your brain on a cellular level, and why are older adults so much more vulnerable to their devastating effects? To understand why anticholinergic medications are so devastating to the aging brain, you need to think of acetylcholine as the master conductor of your neural orchestra. This neurotransmitter is responsible for orchestrating memory formation, attention, learning, and the precise coordination that keeps you mentally sharp and physically stable. When you take an anticholinergic medication, it's like replacing that skilled conductor with someone who's tone-deaf and blindfolded. The music of your mind becomes chaotic, disjointed, and eventually falls apart entirely. Acetylcholine specifically targets what we call muscarinic receptors in your brain, and these receptors are absolutely critical for maintaining youthfulness in your cognitive abilities. Mr. Frank Thompson, a 69-year-old retired engineer, described it perfectly when he said, "Doc, it's like someone keeps unplugging my brain's power cord just when I need it most." The cruel irony is that we're often taking these medications to solve minor problems while unknowingly creating major ones. The biological reality is that acetylcholine acts as your brain's primary communication highway, allowing different regions to talk to each other efficiently and effectively. When anticholinergic medications block these pathways, it's like closing down the major interstate during rush hour. Everything backs up, gets confused, and eventually grinds to a halt. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, relies heavily on acetylcholine to form new memories and retrieve old ones. Mrs. Dorothy Williams, that retired teacher I mentioned earlier, had been unknowingly blocking this crucial neurotransmitter for months with her nightly Benadryl routine. When I explained that she was essentially putting up roadblocks in her own memory highway, she finally understood why she'd been having trouble remembering her students' names from decades past. The goal of aging healthily becomes impossible when we're systematically disrupting the very chemical processes that keep our minds functioning optimally. What makes this situation particularly tragic for older adults is that acetylcholine levels naturally decline with age. It's just part of the normal aging process. Think of it like having a car with an aging battery that's already struggling to start on cold mornings, and then someone comes along and drains even more power from it. The immune system in old age is already working harder to maintain cognitive function, and anticholinergic medications are essentially forcing it to fight a war on two fronts. Dr. Patricia Liu, a neurochemist at Stanford, explained to me that by age 65, most people have already lost about 30% of their acetylcholine-producing neurons. When you add anticholinergic medications to this equation, you're creating what she calls cognitive quicksand. The harder your brain tries to function normally, the deeper it sinks into confusion and memory loss. The muscarinic receptors that anticholinergic medications target aren't just involved in memory. They're crucial for attention, executive function, and even basic coordination. These receptors are like the control panel of a sophisticated machine, and when you start flipping switches randomly, which is essentially what these medications do, the whole system begins to malfunction. I've seen patients who couldn't understand why they were suddenly having trouble balancing their checkbooks, remembering appointments, or even following simple conversations. The answer was sitting right there in their medicine cabinet, systematically blocking the very receptors their brains needed to process information effectively. The concept of how to maintain autonomy as an elderly person becomes a cruel joke when the medications you're taking are specifically designed to interfere with the brain chemistry that maintains your independence. Perhaps the most insidious aspect of this biological sabotage is how it creates a cascade of problems throughout the entire nervous system. Acetylcholine isn't just important for your brain, it's crucial for your peripheral nervous system too, controlling everything from digestion to heart rate to muscle coordination. When anticholinergic medications block these receptors throughout your body, they create what researchers call anticholinergic toxicity syndrome, a condition that affects multiple organ systems simultaneously. Patients often experience dry mouth, constipation, blurred vision, difficulty urinating, and increased fall risk, all while their cognitive function is steadily declining. Mrs. Agnes Porter, an 81-year-old former nurse, came to my office with a list of 8 different symptoms that seemed completely unrelated until I realized they were all connected to the anticholinergic burden from her multiple medications. The nutrition for the elderly becomes almost secondary when the medications they're taking are preventing their bodies from properly digesting and absorbing nutrients in the first place. The question isn't just how these medications affect your brain, it's how they're systematically undermining every aspect of your health and what we can do to break free from this dangerous cycle before it's too late. The first step in protecting your cognitive future is conducting what I call a medicine cabinet audit, and I want you to do this today, not next week or when you feel like it. Go to your bathroom, kitchen, bedside table, and anywhere else you keep medications, and pull out every single bottle, box, and blister pack. Look for these specific ingredients: diphenhydramine, found in Benadryl, Tylenol PM, Advil PM, doxylamine in Unisom, NyQuil, chlorpheniramine and chlorotrimazine, and any medication ending in amine that you take for allergies or sleep. Mrs. Catherine Walsh, a 74-year-old retired secretary, followed this advice and discovered she had 7 different anticholinergic medications scattered throughout her house. She was shocked to realize she'd been inadvertently creating a cognitive storm every time she took what she thought were harmless remedies. The goal of maintaining health in old age starts with knowing exactly what you're putting into your body and understanding that just because something is available over the counter doesn't mean it's safe for long-term use. Now here's the crucial part. Do not just throw these medications away or stop taking them cold turkey without consulting your healthcare provider first. Some of these medications, especially if you've been taking them regularly, can cause withdrawal symptoms if stopped abruptly. Schedule an appointment with your doctor within the next 2 weeks and bring every single medication you found during your audit. Tell them you're concerned about anticholinergic burden and cognitive decline, and ask them to help you create a plan to safely transition off these brain-blocking medications. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a geriatrician colleague of mine, always tells her patients, "We're not just changing your medications, we're giving your brain a chance to heal and function the way it was designed to." The process of aging healthily requires us to be proactive advocates for our own cognitive health, not passive recipients of whatever happens to be convenient or heavily marketed. For sleep difficulties, which is often the reason people start taking these dangerous medications in the first place, there are numerous safe and effective alternatives that actually support your brain health instead of undermining it. Melatonin, starting with just 0.5 to 1 milligram about an hour before bedtime, can help regulate your natural sleep-wake cycle without any anticholinergic effects. Chamomile tea, which has been used safely for centuries, contains compounds that naturally promote relaxation without interfering with your brain's neurotransmitter systems. Magnesium glycinate, typically 200 to 400 milligrams before bed, can help relax your muscles and calm your nervous system. Mr. Robert Chen, a 68-year-old former accountant, made the switch from Tylenol PM to this natural combination and told me, "Dr. Harris, not only am I sleeping better, but I wake up feeling actually refreshed instead of groggy and confused." The key to youthfulness in your later years often lies not in what you add to your routine, but in what you remove. Creating proper sleep hygiene is perhaps the most powerful tool for maintaining cognitive health as you age, and it doesn't require a single medication. Keep your bedroom cool around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, completely dark and free from electronic devices at least 1 hour before bedtime. Establish a consistent bedtime routine that signals to your body it's time to wind down, perhaps some light stretching, reading a few pages of a book, or practicing gentle meditation. Mrs. Eleanor Foster, an 82-year-old former teacher, implemented these changes and discovered that her insomnia was actually just poor sleep habits that had developed over years of relying on anticholinergic medications. The nutrition for the elderly becomes so much more effective when you're getting quality sleep that allows your body to properly repair and regenerate. Remember, the goal isn't just to fall asleep, it's to achieve the deep, restorative sleep that supports how to be a healthy elderly person. For digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome, which often leads people to anticholinergic medications like Benadryl or Levsin, there are gentle, natural alternatives that work with your body instead of against it. Enteric-coated peppermint oil capsules, typically 0.2 to 0.4 milliliters taken 30 minutes before meals, have been shown in multiple studies to be as effective as prescription medications for IBS symptoms without any of the cognitive side effects. Probiotics, particularly strains like Lactobacillus plantarum and Bifidobacterium infantis, can help restore the healthy gut bacteria that support both digestive health and the immune system in old age. Soluble fiber from sources like psyllium husk or acacia fiber can help regulate bowel movements naturally. The concept of how to maintain autonomy as an elderly person extends beyond just cognitive function. It includes maintaining digestive health that allows you to enjoy meals, social gatherings, and the simple pleasure of eating without discomfort. The beautiful thing about these natural alternatives is that they often provide additional health benefits beyond just treating the immediate symptom, supporting your overall journey toward healthy aging rather than creating new problems while solving old ones. Stop everything you're doing right now and listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could literally save your life. That innocent little pink pill sitting in your medicine cabinet, the one you've been taking for months or even years thinking it's completely harmless, is slowly and systematically destroying your brain. I'm not talking about some rare side effect or theoretical risk. I'm talking about documented, measurable brain damage that's happening inside your skull every single time you swallow that pill. My name is Dr. Michael Harris, and in my 30 years of practicing medicine, I have never been more terrified of a single class of medications than I am right now. These aren't experimental drugs from some underground lab. We're talking about Benadryl, Tylenol PM, Unisom, medications that are in 9 out of 10 American homes, medications that are literally stealing your memories, your independence, and your future one dose at a time. 3 weeks ago, I sat across from Margaret, a 71-year-old former nurse who came to my office in tears because she couldn't remember her own daughter's birthday. She was convinced she had Alzheimer's, and frankly, so was I until I looked at her medication list and felt my blood run cold. This brilliant woman, who had spent decades caring for others, had been unknowingly poisoning herself with what she thought were safe sleep aids and allergy medications. The most shocking part? Within just 6 weeks of stopping these brain-destroying pills, Margaret's memories started coming back. She called me crying again, but this time it was tears of joy. She had just baked her famous apple pie from memory for the first time in 2 years. But here's the terrifying truth that keeps me awake at night. Margaret was one of the lucky ones. For every success story like hers, there are thousands of people whose cognitive decline has already progressed too far, and they have no idea that their harmless medications are the culprit. The pharmaceutical industry has been keeping this devastating secret hidden from you for decades, and the reason will make your blood boil. These companies know, they absolutely know, that their most profitable over-the-counter medications are causing dementia, but they're making too much money to care. We're talking about a $3.2 billion industry built on slowly destroying your brain while convincing you they're helping you sleep better or feel less congested. The research is overwhelming, the evidence is undeniable, and the cover-up is criminal. A groundbreaking study that followed 40,000 people for nearly a decade found that regular users of these medications had a 46% increased risk of dementia. That's nearly half again as likely to lose your mind simply because you trusted a pink pill to help you sleep. But here's what they don't want you to know. The damage starts immediately, it's cumulative, and for many people, it's irreversible. Right now, as you're listening to this, millions of Americans are unknowingly participating in the largest uncontrolled medical experiment in human history. Every night, they're taking what they think are harmless sleep aids, not knowing that each pill is like taking a tiny eraser to their brain. Every morning, they're popping allergy medications that are systematically dismantling their ability to form new memories. The goal of aging healthily becomes a cruel joke when the very medications you trust are accelerating your cognitive decline faster than natural aging ever could. This isn't about getting old. This is about being deliberately poisoned by an industry that profits from your suffering and confusion. But here's why I'm risking my reputation to tell you this truth. It's not too late. In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the exact medications that are destroying brains across America, show you the shocking scientific evidence that proves these pills are cognitive poison, and give you a step-by-step plan to safely eliminate these brain killers from your life forever. This isn't just another health warning. This is your chance to save your mind, your memories, and your future. The question isn't whether you can afford to listen, it's whether you can afford not to. So here's my challenge to you, and I mean this with every fiber of my being. Stop being a passive victim of an industry that profits from your cognitive decline and start taking control of your brain health today. Right now, I want you to pause this video, walk to your medicine cabinet, and pull out every single bottle, box, and blister pack you have. Look for those brain-destroying ingredients I showed you: diphenhydramine, doxylamine, chlorpheniramine, and any medication ending in amine that you take for sleep, allergies, or digestive issues. How many of these cognitive time bombs are you carrying in your own home? How long have you been unknowingly participating in your own mental destruction? The goal of maintaining health in old age isn't just about eating vegetables and taking walks. It's about protecting the very organ that makes you who you are, and that starts with eliminating these brain-blocking poisons from your life immediately. But don't you dare stop taking anything without talking to your doctor first. I cannot stress this enough. Schedule an appointment within the next 48 hours. Bring this video transcript with you, and demand that your healthcare provider help you create a safe transition plan away from these anticholinergic medications. Ask them about the natural alternatives I mentioned: melatonin for sleep, magnesium for relaxation, and terra-coated peppermint oil for digestive issues. If your doctor dismisses your concerns or tells you these medications are perfectly safe, find a new doctor who actually keeps up with the latest research on cognitive health. The concept of how to be a healthy elderly person requires healthcare providers who prioritize your long-term brain function over short-term symptom relief. Are you going to be the person who takes action, or are you going to continue sleepwalking into cognitive decline? I want you to think about Margaret, that 71-year-old nurse I told you about at the beginning of this video. 6 months ago, she was convinced she had Alzheimer's and was preparing to lose her independence, her memories, and her identity. Today, she's baking pies from memory, planning trips with her grandchildren, and living proof that it's never too late to reclaim your cognitive future. But Margaret's transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because she took action, made difficult changes, and refused to accept cognitive decline as inevitable. The immunity in the elderly can be strengthened, youthfulness can be preserved, and aging healthily is absolutely possible when you stop poisoning your brain with medications that were never meant for long-term use. What's your excuse for not starting this journey today? The pharmaceutical industry is counting on you to stay ignorant, to keep buying their brain-destroying products, and to accept cognitive decline as just another part of getting older. They're banking on your fear of change, your trust in familiar brand names, and your reluctance to question medical authority. But you have the power to break free from this cycle of cognitive destruction right now. The nutrition for the elderly, the exercise routines, the social connections, none of it matters if you're systematically poisoning the very organ that controls everything else in your body. How to maintain autonomy as an elderly person starts with protecting your brain from these chemical assaults. And that protection begins the moment you decide that your cognitive future is worth more than the convenience of a pink pill. If this video has opened your eyes to the truth about anticholinergic medications and their devastating effects on cognitive health, then I've done my job. But the real work starts now with you in your home, making the brave decision to prioritize your brain health over pharmaceutical convenience. I need you to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell right now, because I'm going to continue exposing the medical truths that could save your life and your mind. Share this video with every person you care about who might be unknowingly destroying their cognitive future. Your action today could literally save someone's memories, their independence, and their identity. The question isn't whether you'll remember this video tomorrow. It's whether you'll still have the cognitive ability to remember anything at all if you don't act on this information right now.